Welcome to the Game Week 18 team selection video. Darwin Nunez left my team on Sunday and I'm now eyeing up a -8 for my team due to injuries and also risk of rotation. I might be looking at Alexander-Arnold in my team come this evening. So as always, if you are new around here, please do consider dropping a like and smashing that subscribe button. I also need to deep dive on captaincy in this video, so it's going to be relevant for all of you that are watching. So without further ado, let's get into today's video. So for a bit of context, I've already used my free transfer, which we will come on to in a minute. So I have no other free transfers available and I have 7.3 million in the bank. I think we're all swimming in money right now after selling Erling Haaland. But the goalkeeper department is one that I am totally happy with. We saw Areola return last night. Yes, he did concede 5 goals against Liverpool. I don't really know what that means going into game week 18. Is he back in the West Ham team or was that meaning he is now a cup goalkeeper? I don't really know the answer, but having Dubravka in my team makes things a little bit easier. Am I expecting a clean sheet away against Luton? I don't necessarily think it is a given. We've seen Newcastle a little bit ropier against Chelsea, the likes of Kieran Trippier, maybe just having fatigue in and amongst the team, and also injuries galore in that team is making me worried about a guaranteed clean sheet for Newcastle. But Dubravka away against Luton, if you own him, you definitely starting him. It's the same for my team. I'm just praying he does get in amongst the bonus points at least. Next up, looking at the defence, and this is where a potential -4 could be made. So first up, Pedro Porro at home against Everton. Delighted to have brought him in last week. And this is a player that I'm happy to hold long term, as I think each and every week that passes, Spurs defensively, hopefully, will get better. Because I think Van der Ven is expected to come back in the new year, which is only going to elevate Pedro Porro as a defensive option. So he is absolutely fine. I am starting Saliba away against Liverpool, which I'm not happy at all. But as I discussed in my previous video, if there is a team that I am going to confidently put away, it is going to be the Arsenal defence. I don't really want to double up. As you can see on the bench, I do have Gabriel away. And I also expect Liverpool to score, even though obviously they were pretty poor against Man United. I would expect Arsenal to be a bit more of a suited team for Liverpool, being higher up the pitch and probably giving opportunities for Trent to find the pockets for the likes of Darwin Nunez and Mo Salah. And I do think Mo Salah up against any left-back option that Arsenal do deploy is going to be a field day for him. So I'm playing Saliba just because of necessity, because I don't really have any other better options in my team. But the big question mark is going to be Livramento away against Luton. Now, he's been fantastic and came in as my auto sub last week for Dominic Solanke's voided points. And I don't really want to sell Livramento. My main worry is that Dan Burns now returned, Botman is now back, and I think Trippier is locked into that team. Now, we don't know the status on Fabian Schär, but realistically, I wouldn't be surprised if we were to see the return in this week or next of Trippier, Schär, Botman and Dan Burn. And then it adds question marks to Livramento being a long-term fit for my team. Now, I could get by this week maybe, play him, and then look to play double Arsenal defence each and every week with Pedro Porro. I think that's definitely fine, but going into this week, I am a little bit cautious of Livramento's minutes, and having premium defenders like Trippier and Trent available with so much money in the bank makes me tempted to do a -4, knowing that those guys will be a long-term pick for my team. So let's do a quick comparison on Trippier versus Trent for those that are debating it. So I know both of these players are really popular picks for a lot of managers going into game week 18 because, as I mentioned, we have so much money in the bank. It doesn't really feel right just sitting here week in, week out with 8 million and not really allocating it into some of the best options in the game. And it's also worth noting, for those that are maybe looking to do this move and a little bit worried about how they're going to afford Erling Haaland later down the line, I do want to remind you that Mo Salah and Son are going to be out of the Premier League from game week 21 onwards for a minimum of 3 games, it probably will look like. So that is where your money is going to be to allocate back into Erling Haaland. So we can actually afford these premium defenders a bit more longer term until maybe game week 25. But looking at a comparison between the two, first up we need to address the price point. There's about 1.3 million difference between the two. Trent is so expensive, and the reason why we haven't really invested in him that much this season, but he's been ticking over so good. Whenever Liverpool do keep a clean sheet, you can guarantee Trent is in and amongst the bonus points. Now, looking at the underlying numbers for both, honestly, they are so similar. XG per 90 is slightly in Trent's favour at 0.08, but I wouldn't say those are numbers that I would think, oh my god, he's going to score every game. And in terms of the expected assists, they are pretty much identical once again. 0.32 for Trent, 0.34 for Trippier. The other thing that I want to point you towards is the bonus points at the far end there. 1.1 per 90 for Trent, 1.16 per 90 for Trippier. So both of these are bonus point magnets in their own right. And when we're looking at the underlying numbers in general, there's not really too much to split them. Now, I think we do know that Newcastle are probably more of a trusted defence. So if we're looking at a team for maybe more guaranteed clean sheets in the longer term, I maybe would put the argument that Newcastle are the ones to go for. And when we take a look at the fixtures of both teams, first up Liverpool, Arsenal at home, even though I am looking to potentially bring in Trent this week, I'm not expecting a clean sheet. Burnley away looks great, and then Newcastle at home again playing against one another. I think that could go either way in that fixture. Then Bournemouth away could be a tricky game for Liverpool, followed by Chelsea and Arsenal. So I'd only see a maybe maximum 2 clean sheets over this period for Liverpool. So straight away we're putting a lot of emphasis on Trent either being in the bonus points or picking up attack and returns. Whereas when we take a look at Trippier, I'd argue maybe there are a couple more potential clean sheet opportunities. We have this weekend away against Luton, then we have Nottingham Forest at home, and then of course Luton at home in game week 23. But again, similar to Liverpool, very mixed fixtures with Liverpool away, Man City at home, and Aston Villa away. So I'm not as confident about Newcastle clean sheets over this period as maybe what I once was. They've seen fatigue in that team week in, week out. Now, for my specific team, I do think that Trippier makes a bit more sense because I would be selling somebody like Livramento and I would like to stick with the Newcastle defence. And being 6.9 million and with similar numbers to Trent and better fixtures, I think Trippier is probably the way that I slightly want to lean towards. However, seeing Trent week in, week out and now playing as a midfielder in this Liverpool team, I think is going to be a bit more long term. Very difficult to ignore him, and I do think he is going to get into great positions to be the chance creator in this Liverpool team. And I do think some of these games actually may play into some Trent's hands. Arsenal, for example, with the high line. I think Newcastle with the way they play. Even Arsenal in game week 23. Opportunities for Trent to open up that team. So right now, I am tempted to do a -4 with Livramento to Trippier, but I could be swayed towards Trent. So let me know your thoughts in the comments. So moving into the midfield, and previously I was really happy with this team, and this was absolutely locked in. Son at home against Everton, great fixture. Palmer, the most important Chelsea player right now from an attacking perspective. Saka and Salah for me are long-term holds, even though they are playing against one another this week. Saka is a little bit worrying. His underlying numbers are not fantastic from a goal-scoring perspective, but right now I don't think you need to play around with those Arsenal midfielders. If you have Saka, I think you just keep hold of him, knowing that maybe the sideways move to Odegaard is a luxury move that you could consider because he is starting to become a bit more of an FPL consideration. But Gordon's the one, yellow flagged off the back of that injury in the Carabao Cup. Now, it's worth noting, I don't think we're going to get anything regarding Gordon between now and the 6:30 p.m. deadline today. So we're kind of just fighting in the dark right now of what to do with him. At the time of recording right now, I am tempted just to play him and hope for the best away against Luton, knowing that I do have Gabriel who can come on away against Liverpool, who, again, I wouldn't be surprised if they kept a clean sheet against Liverpool. I think Arsenal are just that much better of a team than Liverpool. I think they might nullify him at times. But if we were looking to maybe take a -4, because this is the other consideration that I'm taking, Gordon to either Bowen or Richarlison are the two options that I'm deliberating. I think Richarlison long-term looks a great pick. And when we take a look at the fixtures for West Ham and Richarlison, Bowen obviously the consideration at West Ham, Richarlison at Spurs. In terms of fixtures, I prefer West Ham's, I think, longer term. I think, yes, the next two are difficult, but I do fancy West Ham at home against a team like Man United, especially if I was investing in the talisman like Bowen. But then after that, Brighton at home, Sheffield United away, Bournemouth at home, followed by Man United away. I really do like the mix of fixtures there for somebody like a Jarrod Bowen, who we know historically is just a fantastic FPL option. When we take a look at Spurs, Everton at home I think is good for goals, not necessarily clean sheets for Spurs. Then they have Brighton away, I think there's goals in that, followed by Bournemouth at home, United, Brentford, and then Everton. So I do think Richarlison is a really good move, and I think we are all going to go there eventually once Son goes to the Asia Cup, because Richarlison is playing as a forward. So I really like Richarlison going into this week. I don't think you want to necessarily be buying him until Son goes otherwise, because Son to Richarlison makes a lot of sense in game week 21. So if I had to make a move right now, I think I'll be tempted just to get it done, bring Jarrod Bowen into my team, knowing that I want him literally until he gets injured in the future. So Gordon to Bowen is a consideration, but only if we get news that Gordon is ruled out. Otherwise, the midfield I'm more than happy with. And finally, taking a look at the forwards, you probably guessed it by now. I sold Darwin Nunez for Ollie Watkins. There was no other consideration for my team here at home against Sheffield United. I haven't had him for the last 4 weeks. It has been a scary experience, but it feels so good knowing that I have him back in the team. And long term, the fixtures are just fantastic for Aston Villa. I honestly don't see a situation where we sell Ollie Watkins anytime soon. I know the temptation of Nkunku and always going to be there, but this is a guy who plays 90 minutes, one of the best forwards in the league right now. We don't have to overthink it. Ollie Watkins is in for the long term. I know I am late to the party. Otherwise, Solanke away against Nottingham Forest, that's going to be tricky now. With the new manager, Nuno, at Nottingham, I'm expecting a new manager bounce typically, so Solanke has a lot to deliver this week. Otherwise, I'm really happy with the team. As we discussed, there is a -8 looming. Livramento to Trippier or Trent, and then Gordon to potentially Bowen is on the cards, but I want to wait a little bit more today to see if we do get any information. But I will update you guys in probably a post in the community section, so make sure you are subscribed to the channel. But let's quickly look at captaincy and then we'll round off this video. Okay, so in terms of captaincy going into game week 18, I think there are two considerations. Yes, I think Mo Salah does well against teams like Arsenal historically, but for me, it's Son versus Watkins, and I'm just leaning towards Ollie Watkins. I think Sheffield United are just a worse team than Everton, to be fair. And I think Son now going off the left doesn't give me as much confidence as when he was playing as a forward. I think if Son was down the middle, then this would be much closer. But for me, Ollie Watkins, guaranteed minutes, playing against a Sheffield United team who I know have got a new manager, but they're not suddenly going to become Barcelona, and I think it is just a no-brainer. And I do think the community are going to go towards Ollie Watkins as well. So I think Son's a differential if you want to go down there, and he's a great proven asset, but Watkins is ticking over so nicely right now. I'm not going to overthink it. I'm going to go for Ollie Watkins and know that I'm playing the best fixture that we have in Game Week 18. Yes, guys, okay, that's going to wrap up today's Game Week 18 team selection video. I really hope it provided some value. As I mentioned, Darwin to Watkins is done, and I'm also deliberating a -8 of selling Livramento to Trippier and Gordon to Bowen. I will update you later on today. A reminder, the deadline is today, 6:30 p.m. Do not be missing it, and I will see you guys in the next video. Have an amazing day and a great game week. Take care. Cheers.